Welcome to the video. In this video I'd like to just take a look at this camera here. This is the ThiEYE i60e. We've had loads of different styles of action cameras here over the past couple of months, and they're starting to be inexpensive as well. Now we obviously have things like our trusty GoPro. This is a very kind of aging Hero 3, but it's one that we've used on all of our comparison videos, and we'll again compare the two of these because this at the moment is available from places like Amazon. It's only £45 from .co.uk, and it's about $60 from Amazon.com. Now the big trick up the sleeve is this camera actually has a 4K capability, so it'll shoot in 4K, 2K, as well as lots of other modes too. So what I want to very quickly do in the video is kind of show you what you get in the box, have a quick run through the menu at the back, and then show you what the footage is like. We'll stick it up against the Hero 3. Every review video we do for every camera, we always compare it to this. This is, you know, several £100 worth of action camera, and to be honest, I bought it to use on top of a quadcopter and then never had the guts to actually put it on the top there. I just hated the idea of this thing pinging off into the grass and never being seen again. Now we use it for other things, but I do have quite a lot of this style of action camera that goes on top of different quads. And in fact, in the recent quadcopter building for beginners series 2 video where we added the FPV equipment, you can actually see how I'm using this one. It's stuck on top, and for that particular quad, particularly with the orange accents on this thing, it looks fantastic and it works really well. So first of all, let's very quickly go through what you get in the box. So you obviously get the camera. It comes in a waterproof casing. Now you have to be a little bit careful here. One of the things you'll notice is the camera is fractionally thicker than something like a GoPro, so you won't be able to use GoPro style accessories for it, but it comes in this enclosure. Just like all waterproof enclosures, be really careful, because if it's in the enclosure, then of course the sound is very muffled. So it comes inside the box. In addition to that, you get a box full of goodies, and in here we have the rest of the mounts. So we have the foot for that enclosure, which will snap into a bottom part. It has a nice connected lock so that we can lock that in position. It has the screw for it, and it has the bottom foot, a single bottom foot, but it has a couple of spare pads to stick it to whatever you're going to use it from. Apart from that, the only thing in the bottom is a little quick start guide. So to power it up, to actually run this thing is pretty straightforward. There's a power button at the front. The layout is very similar to lots of other cameras that we've looked at. This is another action camera from another vendor, and you can see that we have lots and lots of similarity. So the difference here is definitely in the optics and the firmware. So you power it on exactly the same way. Press and hold the power button, and let me bring the camera in a little bit and I'll show you the menus. So to power it on, we press and hold the button at the front. It powers on and says ThiEYE, and then it'll go into the mode. The camera does also have Wi-Fi capability, so you can connect it with an app to do all those bits and pieces too. The screen by default times out after about 30 seconds, but you can see here at the moment we're not recording audio. We have the date and time at the bottom, and also the mode that we're in. Now if we briefly press the power button again, then it'll actually take us through photo mode. At the moment it's set to 12 megapixels. Set it again, it sets us to kind of slow-mo mode, so that's 720p at 120 frames per second. Press it one more time, then we have our playback. One more time takes you into the settings. So let's go through the settings very quickly. To access the settings, you press the shutter button at the top, and then you navigate around here at the bottom. So the video resolution can actually be all the way down from 720p 60 frames per second, 720p 120 frames per second, but I don't think it seems to record audio when you do that. At the moment I've been playing with it in 1080p 30 frames per second, but it'll also do 1080p 60 frames per second, it'll do 2.7K 30 frames per second and a whopping 4K at 30 frames per second as well. So we'll put it onto that for the moment. It'll actually obviously do audio recording, you can do time-lapse, looping, you can set it slow motion. By pressing the button at the front very briefly again, it'll take you into the photo menu. You can set the photo resolution to be 12, 8 or 5 megapixels. You can set the self timer, time-lapse, photo burst. Press the power button briefly again. I'm trying to get it so you can actually read this thing. It's a bit tricky with the exposure. Speaking of exposure, you can set the exposure, white balance, turn the Wi-Fi on, decide whether or not you want the camera to be recording 180 degrees, set camera stuff. So there's lots and lots of things to change in here. So there's the display off for 30 seconds. When I'm using it on a craft, I have it set for very, very low. When I'm actually using it for other stuff, I like to always have the back on. The battery is removable, so if you want to change things out, then you can do if you want to spare. And last thing then are things like date and time and stuff. So that is kind of how it works. Let me turn it off, press and hold the power button. So let's take it out and do a little bit of a comparison video with our Hero 3 to show you how this thing performs. So this is actually shot on quite a challenging day. It's autumn here in the UK. It's a very bright, clear autumn day with lots of deep shadows. So the sky is very bright and the foliage that we're walking past here is in shadow. Now the GoPro is on the left hand side for comparison purposes, and again the reason we're using the GoPro is that we use it with every single camera, so it acts as a common frame of reference. We're not using it here because it's the same kind of price or capability. It's just that the GoPro is such an expensive camera, and also because it's used in everything, you can see how this performs against it, as well as some of the other cameras that we've also reviewed. On the right hand side is the ThiEYE, and you can see here the difference in the way that these guys are behaving. The lens on the i60e is a little bit smaller than the GoPro. There isn't a lot of fisheye going on at all, but one of the things you're probably picking up is that the level of saturation in some of these images is a little bit different. So for example, when we're coming up and getting a lot of sunshine in the lens, you can see that we're getting a little bit of lens flare. Now looking out here over the canal, apologies for the thumb in the GoPro image, and that's part of the challenge with any camera that doesn't have a screen on the back. You don't know exactly what you're looking at, but you can see the difference in the kind of field of view. The lens is a little bit narrower. Now I would say that the colours are probably more accurate on the i60e on the right hand side on the cheaper camera than it is the GoPro. The GoPro does tend to give much warmer, more kind of romantic colours than other cameras. Personally, I really like that, but for things like FPV, then just having colour accuracy is quite good. The other thing you might be noticing here is the quality and sharpness of things like the leaves on the trees are not quite as sharp on the i60e. So the optics maybe aren't quite up to the level of something like a Hero 3, but for general use they're absolutely fine. And this is something that we've seen on a lot of the cheaper cameras. One of the things you do sacrifice is that higher end optical clarity. But in terms of the way the exposure's working, colour clarity, the way it's handling the light and also changing from light to dark conditions is pretty good. So if you're looking for a camera to capture your antics in beautiful 4K, then this is something you should look at. This is one of the first cameras that's kind of at this price point that we've played with that gives you that ability to shoot in 4K. Obviously the file sizes are huge, so make sure you have a very big SD card in here, but that functionality is absolutely there. Now there's a couple of things that I will mention at the end, just words of warning. The first is that the 4K files on this aren't always readable by anything but the latest generation of video editing technology. So some of the suites that we've been using here didn't like the 4K footage at all. So make sure that if you're going to be editing and playing with it to create files to share with friends and family, that you have latest versions of Sony Vegas or whatever it is you're using to edit your video so that you can play with it. The other thing I'll mention is that it doesn't have any kind of video out capability. A lot of other action cameras provide that kind of FPV video out, so you can connect it up to an FPV transmitter so you can see what's actually going on via a remote set of goggles. This doesn't provide that, so this feels definitely like it's been designed for more generic action camera use. But with that being said, if you're looking for something that's 4K, that's relatively cheap and cheerful, so you wouldn't be heartbroken if something happened to it as part of a flight or use, then this is definitely something you should have a look at. I'll put a link in the description down to the website where this came from, but the best places that I saw to get this thing from was those two Amazon sites that we've already had a look at. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.